I'm Cynthia James, and this network is about changing lives one woman at a time. So welcome to Women Awakening. I'm your host, Cynthia James, and I get the honor of introducing you to extraordinary women that are change makers on this planet. They inspire me, and I want to share them with you. You can subscribe to us. We're in a lot of places: iTunes, Spreaker, Amazon, YouTube. Just join us and meet these amazing women. I guarantee you they will inspire you to change your life. So my guest today is someone, and I'll tell you a little bit about how I met her in a bit, but her name is Traci Brown, and she's trained in the body language of deception detection right alongside our country's top law enforcement. She teaches the lie, fraud, and identity theft detection skills that she used, oh, listen to this, to get to the truth in billion-dollar business deals, crime, and politics. Oh, and by the way, she is a 3-time U.S. collegiate cycling champion and former member of Team USA. And she's also the past president of National Speakers Association, Colorado. Traci, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's a thrill. It's always just a treat to get to hang out with you, Cynthia.
Thank you so much. So Traci and I met actually in a mastermind group, and we were all growing our businesses and all shifting, and it was incredible. We would meet over lunch for these 2-hour lunches, and it was amazing. So Traci, I want to talk about your detection business, but I really want to start with, where were you born? You know, how were you brought up? Because clearly you just didn't come on the planet and decide you were going to be looking at body language.
Well, I am from Dallas, which, and I grew up there until I graduated high school. But had I not grown up there, I don't know that I would be a body language expert, because I started bike racing, and I had some pretty stiff competition when I was training, or even when I jump in the men's races. His name was Lance Armstrong. And not only did he teach me how to spot a liar, but he taught me how to the urgency, how important it was to keep up with people when I was in a pack of cyclists. And it was through really watching him and his buddies that I learned to read body language and start to respond to what was about to happen before it even happened. So that's where I sharpened my skills.
Well, that's incredible. So really it was in support of your expanding as a cyclist.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's where I learned to watch the tiny things. Now I've expanded that information, because it turns out it's not the same things you want to look for in a boardroom, right? Or in an interview, but the basis is the same. Is people are telling you all the time about what's going to happen. Are you going to hear them or not?
Yeah, exactly. So, did you go to college?
I did. I went to the University of Colorado. I moved up here to Boulder to race bikes and go to school in that order.
That's awesome. And so what was the transition from college to what you're doing today? I mean, what did you work for other companies, or how did it?
I did. It was a long and winding path. And I started out of college working for Frito-Lay, and I got fired from that. You know what? And I say that and I laugh, because it is funny, because corporate America, they say they want excellence, but I was actually used to like being one of the best in the world. And when I went in with that attitude, it wasn't always received as maybe I would have intended. And, you know, I'm a speaker now, which is the perfect job for me. It's hard for me to keep my mouth shut. So those two things led to me being escorted out after not too long. But you know, I had a lot of different jobs that just didn't fit. And you know, I didn't have the idea that work should be really enjoyable. Like deep down inside, I did not have that concept, and I had to learn it. Like I had to learn it much later in life, and following that and trusting that has led me here.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is an important piece of information
Mhm.
because not everybody is born to work in corporate America.
Mm-mm.
Not everybody is born to have a 9 to 5 job and just exist with that. I think a lot of us, though, I mean, I was brought up in get security,
Me
get
too.
security.
Me
Yes.
too. Mhm.
Right.
You bet.
Yeah. And so the thing is, though, it's like it doesn't dawn on you that you can be secure doing what you love, not just having a 9 to 5 job.
It's true. It never did. And not just a 9 to 5, but a 9 to 5. Like if you didn't not like it, then it probably wasn't real work. And I had to learn all of that, very, I think, hard earned lessons.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So, so there are people watching this who want to be speakers, and you're a very successful speaker. So, can you just talk a little bit about some of the pitfalls that you had to go through to really launch your business the way you wanted it to be?
Oh boy. How long do we have? Cynthia, I have made every mistake in the business, Um, from not being as good of a speaker as I thought I was, to thinking that certain information, I think this is the big deal, not thinking that certain information was really important when really the other information, the really profitable information, was hiding from me in plain sight. So I think those are two really big ones. And it takes a lot of hustle to you say you want to speak. Really, how bad do you want to speak? Like, because the easy part is speaking. And it was told to me right out of the gate, this business is a lot of marketing and a little bit of speaking. And that is true. If you don't believe in your message, if you don't have congruency with your message, if it's not the message that's going to save the client money, save them time, or make them money very directly, you're not going to get hired as much as maybe you could, unless you are a brilliant genius storyteller, right? And in understanding how you have to present yourself in the markets, like if you want to be a $15,000 speaker, your materials need to reflect that. And it takes a little bit of time to get that acumen. And it takes a lot of money
Yes.
to get your demo reels just right, and get your clothes just right, and get your headshots, and get your right. I mean, I hire people to help me now in places that I was okay, but I know that they could be better. Like I hired an advertising writer for some of my materials. But man, when you hit it on the mark, your sales go up, your requests go up. And lately, what I've been doing is really focusing on video and in maximizing my message, because I think a lot of people they don't maximize the value of their message. And I think, and you've probably seen this from people that we both love, is that they're solving a problem that no one has, or solving a problem that's not as expensive as some other problems that they could solve with the same skills, with the same thing that they teach. And when you hit that on the head, things will skyrocket. And that's what I learned when I really started focusing on lie detection, right? Because I always went, oh, people like that little part of my talk. Maybe I'll do a whole talk on it. All right. And that went really good. And I'm like, great. People like lie detection. But what's more expensive to people than lie detection is fraud prevention. Fraud has a line item every month that people see, right? Especially like those in the financial world. And so they will pay a lot of money to have that number shrink. And so when I started calling it fraud prevention instead of lie detection, again, things I was suddenly much more bookable and a bigger fee. But if I want to maximize the value of that message, is that even capped at speaking? And the answer is no, because during the pandemic, and you've probably seen this, I developed a TV series because fraud is evil and scary, and people like body language and they want to know how to detect lies. And I worked with a writer out in Hollywood, and we shot a pilot, and we're working on selling it right now, because that is how you maximize the value of my content. Is, in this case, it's mass consumption. It's not in everybody's case.
Right.
But I had to take a stab at it, or I would have died wondering, and I didn't want that. And so, but even that has raised my value as a speaker, right? Just to even give that a shot. So it's all these little things that kind of come together, and it's been what, 13, 14 years now. So it's not a quick, some people, man, they hit the nail on the head and they go, not me. It's been a long, slow process of trial and error. And I think most people are on that wagon, but they don't want to admit it.
Yeah. Well, you said a lot of stuff. The first thing I want to talk about is invest in yourself. You know, it's like, if you want to be the best, if you want to make the bigger bucks, if you want to be in the bigger arenas, you have to invest in yourself to absolutely show up in the world as if you're already there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that you got an advertising person and your headshots. You know, it's really, you know, I'm married to a photographer, and and one of the things that he talks about is that people don't understand the value of great pictures. They want to spend $200, $300 and have these pictures taken. But their energy, people, I think it's a 10th of a second, people make an opinion about you either through a photograph or on. So I love that. But I guess when you were deciding to invest, did you take a certain amount of the money that you were making and put it back in, or did you have savings that you invested in that? How did you manage that part?
Oh, got it. So let's talk about that part, because it turns out that bike racing is a great way to go broke. And so did I have the money? The answer was no. The first investment that I made was to join the National Speakers Association. And and I did that. I said, when I get one gig that is close to the amount of money that they are like kind of hinting at that I can make, I will turn that money around and I will join. And I made $2,000 in my very first gig, where they put me on a plane. I would never, I don't take many $2,000 events now. Let's just say that, where I get on a plane. But back then it was, man, I was in hog heaven, and I turned that money around. And I joined NSA, and I said, I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to join. Two, I'm going to volunteer, because I just have the feeling that there's information on the stage, but the real information is with these people in the audience. And sure enough, that was true. So over time, what I've been able to do is, I have savings now, like nice, like I've done well. And so I'm able to be like, you know what, I need some headshots. Like, I'm looking at my headshots now going, those were from 2019. I think I might need some more. Right. So little things along the way. Now, investing in my TV show, that was a huge investment, huge. And because I filmed a pilot. I bankrolled it myself. And but again, that it puts you up at that level, and it's already almost paid for itself. So with bookings and people just thinking that you're that much cooler. Right. So there's something to be said for budgeting, and in that I've always done the maximum that I could do with what I have. And you know what, at that time, it's always been great, and it's always raised my game, and my game just rises a little bit at a time. And very few people have a big splash that lasts. So I'm really in the slow lane of success from that perspective, which I think is my life lesson. And I know you're into this kind of stuff. Because I do not have patience. I like things to happen right now. And the universe tells me every time I get in a hurry, every time I just do stuff, it turns out wrong. It turns out bad, and pretty much every time. And so I kind of inch myself along, and I hold myself back, and that's led me to see the right things and take the right opportunities, and more importantly is the realizations of what I should be doing, and the little nuances here and there that come in that make an amazing speech, or that make a compelling point of why someone would want to hire me, or even to jump into entertainment, right, at all. So
which I think is amazing. But I want to ask you, it's like your field of really looking at body language, at really detecting lies in people. I mean, a lot of women get into relationships and they know something's off. They know it's not right. But can you just talk a little bit about the power of understanding body language and detecting lies through people's energy and the way in which they're speaking or looking?
Yeah. So here's the deal, is that I talked to a friend of mine who's a private investigator. I had her on my podcast. And I said, how many times does your company get called to get involved in domestic incidents? And that's always somebody cheating on someone else. That's what that means. And she said, well, she goes, we get calls all the time. And I always tell them, because 99% of the time, they're right, is what we find. And so I think, like, when something's off, then you need to pay attention to that. And you can call a PI if you want, or you can look at what the main thing you want to look at is when someone's behavior shifts, because we all have a normal behavior, right? And then when we get pinned down on a question, it would be something like, oh, who are you texting? Right? Or where you been? Why are you late? Right? Those kinds of things. If the response is with anger, that can be a really big red flag. If their pacing changes, right? If their tone changes, so if they were like curt or short, oh, no one, like no one, right? Like things like that. That's a real thing. Okay, don't blow that off, because there's signs and they're right there and they're not so hidden, right? And they're in plain sight. And when you blow it off and when you rationalize, that's what we do, is we rationalize. Oh, and you hear this all the time from, unfortunately, the ladies that may have trouble with like domestic abuse and things like that. Oh, he was just having a bad day. No, he's not just having a bad day. That, like, get out of there, right? And there's more into these relationships. And I know I can talk about this with you. Then we're talking deep unconscious set points of how you realize love, what your self-worth is. Like, all these things lead into these rationalizations, right? And one of the real basic things that you can start to look at for is just to ask direct yes or no questions. And we know when we shake our head like this means no. And when we nod our head like this means yes. Believe the body first, take the words with a grain of salt, right? And so if you say, let's see, what would a yes or no question be like? Oh, were you out with Tom last night? Yeah. Right. So and for those listening, I'm shaking my head no while I'm saying yes. It's really hard to do. And it can be just a little tiny, right? Or even a pause that's too long, more than 5 seconds, when trying to formulate an answer, almost always says deception. And we saw that. You can look up New York Yankees pitcher lying. And it was this last week, they asked him a question. Did he use spider tack, which is that sticky stuff? It's a modern alternative to pine tar. And he has exactly a 5-second pause in there. And that's, of course he did, right? That's what baseball guys do. So it happens to be against the rules, but everybody does it, and everybody knows everybody does it. And it's been going on for years. So, just some of those things can really help. And then when you start to understand your deep unconscious set point in any kind of situation, what relationships are like, or what's your worth, or it can be anything in business. Like, are you worthy of making the sale? Like, you name it. then when you unpack that and then you add the body language on top of it, you're going to start to see some real interesting behavior from the people around you because you're looking with new eyes.
Right. Well, I believe the body first.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Because a lot of times we will be in denial or rationalize away what we are experiencing and watching. I just love that. Well, what I want to say to you, Traci, is that I love the work that you're doing. I love how people call on you as an expert to talk about what you are witnessing when people are either in politics or in business or whatever. I think it's extraordinary. And I want people to know how to find you and and you also have a podcast. So tell us where that is so that people can come and connect with you.
You bet. So you can find me bodylanguagetrainer.com. And there I got all kinds of videos and books and you name it, you can find it there. And then for my podcast, it's called Fraud Busting. And anywhere you have a podcast, you can find it. You can probably find it there. And I interview some of the world's most notable criminals, the guys and ladies who have caught them, and also victims of fraud. So I have a mafia princess who's on there straight out of Italy. She talked to me. The guys that caught Pablo Escobar, the DEA agents down in Colombia, like they're amazing. And I just talked to a fella who investigated Forrest Fenn's treasure, a huge 10-year treasure hunt. And anyway, he was fascinating. So a lot of variety, a lot of different folks on there, and the stories are fascinating, but you're going to learn along the way too.
Well, that's incredible. So ladies, please check her out. She's a fabulous speaker and so knowledgeable. And so, Traci, I asked the same last question.
I'm worried.
No, don't be worried. So this show is called Women Awakening. And so my question is, what do you think is the one thing women need to know about the importance of their waking up?
Oh, man. There's nothing that beats self-awareness to understand what's really going on in our minds, to understand your patterns, but more importantly, to understand that you can change those, and we're never stuck. Any kind of emotion that you have in a certain situation, you can change that and make it so that it's actually easy and kind of fun to do. So in doing that, and I say this from my own experience, has been the biggest gift that I've given myself. And, we're always a work in progress, but man, to clear out that junk so you can see clearly is going to let you to reach these heights that you never thought, because you're attracting totally different things in. So I'm all for it.
Well, that's incredible. And clearly you are a living example of that. You have not only been intentional, but you've done your own inner work as well as putting work out into the world for people to know what you do. So I'm so honored to know you, and I'm so grateful that you were here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I feel the same about you.
Thank you. So ladies, please subscribe. There is a new woman every week that has an incredible story and have decided to choose themselves. I'm honored to be with you. I want to remind you that you're magnificent. I want to remind you that you're a unique imprint. I want to remind you that you are here to do something no one else can do the way you came here to do it. So all you have to do is step up and step out and trust that when you take that leap, the net will appear. Thanks so much for being here. I love you, and I'll see you next week.